Robbie Stewart. It's 1 fall, 1 hour. We have passed the 10-minute mark. Referee is out the way. Stewart appearing to be in control of things right now. Oh, and an elbow smash. One. Oh, he's going to give him. He's going to give him some more. Gama in trouble, but I wonder if Stewart may rue the day he didn't grab that 3 count. Over the top. Gama, the Commonwealth champion, in trouble. 1, 2.
And away we go with another edition of the Stampede Wrestling Show.
Let me tell you good people something, and you beer belly sharecroppers out there.
Well, he takes me to the movies, we go strolling in the park, watch the late show on TV, he holds my hand in the dark, he's a ring-a-ding-dong dandy. He's a ring-a-ding-dong dandy.
Just a minute, what's going on
He
here?
always buys me fancy candy, he's a ring-a-ding-dong dandy, and he's mine.
We're gonna have a little knock-it. Well, hi everybody, as the old saying goes, batten down the hatches and lock the door. It is indeed wrestling time once more.
The great Gama, the challenger, Robbie Stewart, the belt, the Commonwealth mid-heavyweight title.
Hello, Stampede Wrestling fans. Today on the Ring-a-Ding-Dong Dandy podcast, dedicated to the honor of Stampede Wrestling, we've got a special guest in Chic Cullen, otherwise known as Frank Cullen, but during the days of Stampede Wrestling, he was Robbie Stewart. At the time that Robbie Stewart joined Stampede Wrestling in the late 70s and returned in the mid-80s, Stampede Wrestling had become a different territory. It was full of small, high flyers now, including those wrestlers such as the Dynamite Kid and Great Gama. The 2 clips that you heard at the start of the podcast were with Robbie Stewart challenging the Great Gama for the mid-heavyweight title at the time. These were a series of matches that occurred between Gama and Robbie Stewart, and all of them were high-flying and very dramatic. Take a listen to that right now.
The referee tripped him. Hey, what kind of bullshit is that? He stuck his leg out and tripped him. Hey, Stu, what kind of crap? And Gama comes after him outside the ring, bangs him into the press table. I'm sure the referee tripped him intentionally going by. In comes Stewart, and he's finished. There's no question about it. There's no question about it. The referee tripped him going by. Stewart in the cobra hold. Gets to his feet. He's hanging on. Is Stewart gone? Again, he's hanging on. Stewart will not go under in that cobra hold.
You gotta love the old-time wrestling fans. Did you hear the guy in the back that said, "Hey, Stu, what kind of bullshit was that?" about the ending in which Robbie got tripped by Cedric Hathaway. Our next clip is from Robbie Stewart taking on Dynamite Kid, 2 well-matched grapplers, especially when it came to aerial highlights.
I'll tell you what a night it is here. Right now, Robbie Stewart, and for just a moment, the crowd does not have the screaming memes. This has been just an incredible fight. Robbie Stewart out of Glasgow, Scotland, 214-pounder against the Dynamite Kid, also 214 from Liverpool. One fall with a 30-minute time limit, and that's Stewart up top. Wayne Hart, the referee, and we have passed the 5-minute mark. Robbie Stewart in control right now. He rolls him, but the Dynamite Kid is on the ropes. The Kid is fast. Rosenblum stomping away at Stewart outside the ring. Stewart running into difficulty thanks primarily to Judah Rosenblum.
Yet again, Robbie Stewart's match is subject to chicanery, and perhaps this is why we saw Robbie Stewart make a heel turn later when he returned to Stampede Wrestling in the mid-'80s.
Robbie Stewart, the Dynamite Kid. Dynamite. Oh! Stewart now. The big slam. Comes up on the top rope. Oh! Elbow smash to the chest. There's the slam again. Interference there by Rosenblum. Hit him with a low blow. He hit him with a low blow when the referee was not looking. Pile driver. Has he got him? Oh, Dynamite is doing cross country. Oh, man, into the side of the face. Cover. 1, 2, 3. He got him. Dynamite Kid, the winner, with an assist by Rosenblum.
Our next clip comes to us from the mid-'80s. This is after Stampede Wrestling is now rebooted. Robbie Stewart has come back to Canada from across the pond, and he is teamed with Bruce Hart to form a tag team in the Stampede International Tag Team Tournament, as you can listen to here.
Robbie Stewart and Bruce Hart defeat Honky Tonk Wayne and the Cuban Assassin. That is the second time we've had champions beaten in the ring. And what do you think of that, Steve DeSalvo?
Another fluke. I just can't believe it. It's another fluke.
Well, fluke or not, Robbie Stewart and Bruce Hart win the bout.
That was super to pull it off against the defending champions. No matter what anyone says about them, they're a tough team. We beat them 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring, and next week, if we get a shot at the belts, Roy, we're putting those belts around our waist and we're walking out here as champions. I'd like to say thanks to the fans. They're the ones who give us that adrenaline to make it flow.
Robbie, 4 years to be apart from Bruce as a tag partner was a long, long time. I was so pleased we found the chemistry, we found the teamwork fitted in so quickly. I'm definitely going to say that Honky Tonk Wayne, Cuban Assassin, you owe us a title shot, and I'm going to promise all these fans in Western Canada that a change of hands of the championship belts is imminent. It's going to change real quick.
Tell me something, are you after the tag team belts right now, or the Commonwealth? Your number one challenger there.
Keith Hart is a good friend of mine. I'm going to let him take care of Gamma Singh for the meantime. Bruce and I are going to we're going to take care of the tag belt.
Congratulations, guys. Great match.
Championship belts. The challengers, Bruce Hart of Calgary, Robbie Stewart of Glasgow, a combination that relies on great speed, and they're up against the heavier champions, Honky Tonk Wayne of Memphis, Tennessee, and the Cuban Assassin from Havana. 1 fall, 1 hour, 10-minute mark. Jim, what do you think of the scoring thus far, if you were to score?
So far, it looks to me like Robbie Stewart and Bruce Hart have the upper hand, although right now Bruce has been taking one heck of a beating in the corner. The Cuban assassin, as per always,
There's a 2 count. That's all.
I was going to say the Cuban assassin, as per always, has some foreign object that he's pulling out of those fatigues, working over the eyes and face area of his opponents.
Look at Robbie Stewart going to work. Drives this man off the ropes. Beautiful drop kick. Knocks him down. Knocks down the Cuban. Great work here. Big headbutt. Down goes.
The next clip, Bruce and Robbie Stewart take on the tag team champions, Cuban Assassin and Honky Tonk Wayne. And in this match, although you can't hear it through the audio, some of the expressions with Robbie begin to show his frustration at this current tag team, and also at the fact that he continues to have the ball bounce against him, if you will.
Look at this. The referee didn't see it.
Well, like he had a pair of knuckle dusters in his hand.
Referee didn't see it. The assassin, both of them wound up over the top rope. And I don't know if either one of them can get back in.
That was a good move by Robbie Stewart because Bruce Hart was in big trouble. Robbie Stewart came flying across the ring and sent the Cuban flying.
Wiping it out. It's no contest. And unfortunately, the titles remain, much to the chagrin of some of the crowd at any rate, with the Cuban Assassin and Honky Tonk Wayne. Valiant shot at the tag team belts by this combination. Bruce Hart, good to see you back, and there was a tough match.
Very tough. They're a tough team, you know. I said a few disparaging things about them in the past, but they are tough. Nonetheless, I figure we weren't tonight. They didn't beat us. We didn't beat them. Controversial, no contest. And I just like to impress upon the official here that we deserved a rematch.
Hart, Stewart, there's going to be a rematch with the championship match. The winner has to be declared. There will be a rematch next week. On the orders from the IWA.
All right. Robbie, that's what you want.
Effort, you said, Ed. We could have had him beat. I thought I was helping out when I drop kicked Bruce. I thought we could have pinned them 1, 2, 3. They were too near the ropes. Bruce and him went over the top rope. But let me say, as long as there's referees around of this caliber, it's going to be a harder task every week.
Okay, Robbie Stewart, Bruce Hart. Well, you managed to hang on to the belts, huh?
This next clip takes place during and then after a tag team title match again. And in this case, Robbie Stewart looked to have Cuban Assassin ready to go to sleep with the sleeper hold, but then he takes a pair of knuckle dusters to the back of the head. After waking up a little while later, he believes that Bruce Hart, who's now holding the knuckle dusters, was the one that did it, and he attacks Bruce. This is the turn of Robbie Stewart in Stampede Wrestling.
There's the sleeper, Robbie Stewart. Robbie Stewart has the sleeper on the Cuban Assassin.
He's got knuckle dusters. He's got knuckle dusters. Bruce Hart knocks down Foley. Bruce Hart grabs those knuckle dusters from Foley, and that's all over now. He's going to go against Honky Tonk Wayne in the corner. Robbie Stewart gets up. What's this? Robbie Stewart saw the knuckle dusters. He thought he had been hit. He thought he had been hit by Bruce Hart.
Total confusion. These guys are the best of friends. And now Robbie Stewart is turning on Bruce Hart.
Robbie Stewart is going after his own partner. They're hammering away at each other. But I saw Robbie Stewart turn. And I saw Robbie Stewart turn, and I saw him look at the knuckle dusters, and then he went 8. He hit you behind the head.
And at ringside, there is Honky Tonk Wayne urging Robbie Stewart to pound on Bruce Hart.
Don't give me that crap about being a mistake. Week after week it's a mistake. That crap about being a mistake. Week after week it's a mistake. The Hart. I should have listened to Sandy Scott and John Foley a long time ago. I know, sir, Bruce Hart just hates when he thinks I'm getting the upper hand, when he thinks I'm getting near a championship match, when he thinks I'm going to win the match, when he thinks I'm looking better than him. I get Cuban Assassin a sleeper hold. I felt Cuban go limp in my arms. I know he's not going to get out of it. And who comes? I see Bruce Hart beside him. I getting in the ring. Next thing I know, I'm on the floor, dazed. I turn around, Bruce Hart's got the chain or whatever it is in his hand. I've stood for that. I stood for that, Ed, time and time again. I don't stand for it anymore. If Bruce Hart wants to think that he's better than me, then instead of sneaking up behind me and doing it in the cheapest way possible, let him get in the ring, fancy man, toe to toe, face to face. You'll see who's the best wrestler. I'll tell you, it's not going to be Bruce Hart that walks out into the ring.
You won't admit it was a mistake.
The following video clip has shown that Robbie Stewart has gone full-fledged heel now. He comes out with Foley's Army. There's J.R. Foley. His new partner is Chick Scott, who's come from the UK as well, and they will form a formidable tag team over the coming weeks in Stampede Wrestling.
Well, Robbie Stewart has developed some funny friends.
What do you mean by funny friends, Mr.
You know
Whalen?
what I mean.
I'm very proud of this boy.
He cost Bruce the title tonight.
I told you last week, Ed Whalen, I had to get even. I wanted to keep him with Bruce Hart. As you can all see, in all his capacity, audience can see, I did that. I just did that tonight. What I want to tell you, Ed, there's a friend of mine who's come in past Northern Ireland, Chick Rocky Scott. It looks like he's come at the right time. This guy was 3 times the Irish champion. There's a lot of those Hart brothers out there, Rocky. And with the guidance of the good Lord John Foley here, between Rocky Scott and myself, we're going to dispose of them one at a time.
Well, you're a cousin of Alexander Scott. There's no love lost for Alexander here.
Never mind the love lost for Alexander. I'll tell you something. Alexander asked me to come here. He asked and asked and asked.
Wonderful.
And I'll tell you something. Then this man telegrammed me and said, get out here. We need these hearts sorting out. Well, there's no better men for the job. Me and this young man here, we're going to eat them.
Yes,
one by one.
Listen to Alexander Scott and the good Lord J.R. Foley, 1981. I wouldn't have been in this predicament now, Ed.
All right, enough.
Chub, it might be the battle of the IRM.
Get out of here. And what a struggle it is. The combination of Robbie Stewart of Glasgow and Chick Scott of Belfast against Bruce Hart of Calgary and Mr. Hito of Tokyo. And thus far, that old term, ring-a-ding-dong-dandy, certainly applies.
The vendetta between Robbie Stewart and Bruce Hart has been clear-cut tonight. We've seen a lot of evidence of the bad feelings that stems back to a couple of weeks ago, and it shows no sign of diminishing.
Well, that is Chick Scott, the newcomer, against Hito, trying to submit Stewart. At ringside, we're nearing the 10-minute mark. There's a 30-minute time limit. It's one fall, of course. Atomic drop, down he goes.
There have been 2 yellow cards already issued to the team of Chick Scott and Robbie Stewart. They've been using very questionable tactics, and yet referee Rod Hayter has been oblivious to most of them, and he's the subject of the letter of the week, Ed Whalen.
During the 80s, Chic Cullen, as he was known in the UK, was a 2-time British heavy middleweight champion. And also, during the 80s and 90s, he was a 2-time world heavy middleweight champion. He had many great competitors to face in the UK. I'm going to give you a couple of clips here. One is against the great Johnny Saint, perhaps the greatest technical wrestler in the history of pro wrestling, period. And the second is against a great showman and a fantastic wrestler named Mark Rollerball Rocco. Also during this, I want you to get a sense of Robbie Stewart's background, coming from Stirling, Scotland, and he's going to talk about a show that was put on in Stirling, Scotland at the end of this podcast, and he is still very much active in the sport as mentioned, but just to give you a sense of the international flavor of Chic Cullen, otherwise known to Stampede Wrestling fans as Robbie Stewart.
Chic Cullen in trouble. And he might not be getting that title shot after all. Johnny Saint now going for the weakening tactics in the final moments of this bout. Goes for a back elbow. Body check. Goes for a back elbow. Johnny Saint takes him under. He's got him, he's got him. 1, 2. And with that same leg lever, he's got him down. Totally exhausted. Totally exhausted. And Chic Cullen goes through now.
I think
right at the back of his head.
You got to have a nice interview, Max. No, he's up again. Unbelievable. The man's made of iron. Chick's running out of ideas. Chick's running out of ideas, and that was right on the back of Cullen's head.
Pain.
I'll see you through my window pane. Here we go. And the way our cameramen are going in here, Maxie, I think the lens are in danger. Never mind us. But it's all good stuff. It's satellite wrestling from the Victoria Hall at Hanley.
Pile driver special. Oh dear God, how these guys don't get broken necks, I don't know.
It's over! It's over! Maxie! Rockerball's the winner!
Ladies and gentlemen, with the 1-4 leading, tonight's knockout champion is Mark Rollerball Rocco!
Well, there he has won it. He's won the trophy.
Welcome, fans, to the Ring a Ding Dong Dandy podcast. Today we've got a great treat. We've got Mr. Frank Cullen with us, known as Robbie Stewart to Stampede wrestling fans, and Chic Cullen to those UK wrestling fans. How are you doing today, Mr. Cullen?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Excellent. So nice to have you on board with us today.
My pleasure. We finally got here, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. You were big into amateur wrestling before you got into pro wrestling. What led you to get into pro wrestling when you were younger?
Yeah, well, you know, I was an amateur wrestler from the time I was about 9 or 10, and I always thought pro wrestling was a natural progression, but I soon learned quickly that it was very, very different. But the reason I wrestled is because, well, all my brothers and my pals were playing soccer, as you call it, or football, as we call it, and rugby. I was asthmatic, so therefore I couldn't run and I couldn't breathe. I didn't have the lung capacity to keep up with them, so I used to just sit and watch. And then one day in this leisure centre, this guy was watching what was going on behind me. I thought it was judo, but it looked like, you know, they don't have jackets on. Then I realised they had singlets, so I said, this must be wrestling. So, yeah, the guy said, do you want to join us? And I was 10 at the time, 11. And so, yeah, I joined, and I never looked back since that day. I enjoyed it very much. So I joined the Bridge of Allen Amateur Wrestling Club.
So you were very young when you started. Was that with Crusher Mason and Org Williams, or did that come a little bit later?
Yeah, I was 16 when I turned pro with them, yep. Yeah, 16 years old.
That's amazing.
I remember going there when I was 15. I was just almost 16, and I remember going to the show every Friday that he had in my local town, and I said to Org, I would be a pro wrestler, and he just kept telling me to fuck off, you know, fuck off, you know. And I kept going back. So he must have thought, well, he keeps coming back for more. So eventually they gave me a tryout, and they said I was the drizzling shit, you know, and go home and get a job, you know, do something else, take up knitting or something like that. So anyway, I kept pestering him, and by the time I just turned 17 or 16 and a half, they took me on board, and I moved from Scotland to Rail in North Wales, where they were based. And that was the start of my career.
Excellent. How was training as a teenager?
It was good. You know, there was no organised wrestling gyms back in those days as they are now, you know, wrestling schools or performance centres or academies. It was, the ring was up in Orig's garage at the back of his house. And so I used to rely on wrestlers coming in and out the town that would take me in the ring and help teach me, you know. Orig could only teach me so much. So Crusher Mason was one of our resident heels, or the Mighty Chang as he was called. Fantastic professional wrestler, fantastic fella, a great guy. So I was very, very fortunate to be trained with him. And after my first 6 months there, we went on tour of Spain. We were wrestling in bull rings. I'm thinking we're going to wrestle in front of thousands of people. Oh, I've hit the big time. I'm only not even 17 yet. When we got there, it was these old bull rings, but nobody had used in years. And sometimes nobody would show up. Sometimes 20 people would show up. But my job there was to get the ring up quickly every day in the middle of the bull ring, because the quicker I got the ring up, quicker somebody could come in and start teaching me. So it was a lesson well spent, that's for sure.
Did you take a lot of hard knocks in those years?
Oh, yes, I did. And some people were sent in deliberately just to kick my ass. And, you know, I took it. I took it on the chin. I rebelled a couple of times, and was to my regret. And but it was a good learning curve, absolutely.
Now, Bruce Hart often is credited with bringing Dynamite over from the UK to Canada. He says that he played a role with bringing you to Stampede. Can you tell us about how that happened? How did you end up being coming over the pond? How did that happen for you?
Yeah, well, I know Bruce had been over for joint promotions a few times, and I hadn't really wrestled for joint promotions at that time, but Having said that, we all knew who the opposition guys were. We knew who the mainstream joint promotions guys were, the TV guys. Everybody kind of knew everybody. I knew Dynamite, I knew Davey, and everybody like that. But I hadn't met Bruce at that point, but he knew about me. I know for a fact also that John Quinn put in a good word with Bruce for me, as did Adrian Street.
Some of your first matches were with Adrian Street, in fact. He wasn't as flamboyant back then. Did you know him in the UK before you came over?
Oh yeah. I wrestled him quite a lot in the UK before I came over. I was 21 by the time I got to Stampede Wrestling, so I'd been in the job 5 years. So yeah, I wrestled with Adrian a lot, and he was one of Orig's main heels at the time. So yeah, especially when it came to Scotland, right? Because it was like Adrian Street, like Mr. Flamboyant against Scotland's new Wonder Kid thing. Like, you know, I made my debut apparently for 3 years on the posters, making his debut at this town, making his debut at that town. So yeah, that's how it was, yeah. So I got to know Adrian pretty well.
Now, during your first years in Stampede, some of your best matches were with Bruce Hart and Dynamite. Who do you think you worked with the best? Who did you mesh with the best in the ring?
Well, depends what type of wrestling match. See, coming from Europe, we all had different styles of wrestling, right? We were capable of going in and doing a babyface versus babyface match, or we were capable of going in and being a heel, or going in and being a babyface. We were very flexible. We were very accomplished in our training and stuff. So as a babyface heel match, I had great matches with Gamma Singh, for example, and I still value that guy's experience and his friendship to this day. He's an amazing guy. As a babyface match, I was able to give him a Davey Boy, and we had a few good UK, European style wrestling matches, you know. And when I started working heel against Bruce, I mean, they went over pretty well too. So I was able to use all the various styles that I had learned by that time to my advantage there. So yeah.
Now, during your first run in Stampede, you were a face, of course, but then you had a heel turn in the mid-'80s. Was that your idea?
Yeah.
Did Bruce bring that up to you? How was that decided upon?
It was my idea, and I remember going back home after the first trip there and then saying to John Quinn, I said, thanks for sending me, I enjoyed it. It was great, good time and stuff, but you know, as long as you're a baby face, you're never going to get anywhere over there because all the Hart boys are baby faces, right? So I said, I think when I go back, I think I'll speak to Bruce and see if we can do a turn and just see if we can get further up the card a bit, because you always want to improve yourself, right? You want to develop and you want to progress. So I suggested it and he went for it, you know.
I thought you were very effective as a heel. Did you prefer being a heel?
Over there, I did, yeah, because it was easy. It was easy to get heat over there with the Hart brothers because they were over big time, right? They were, I just had to mention the name. And so, yeah, it was easy to get heat there. When I came back, I tried it a few times. But I preferred being a face here because we had really strong heels already. Rollerball Rocco, Fit Finlay. We had all the top guys here at the time, so it was much easier to be a face against them, you know.
Absolutely. Now, of course, Stampede is famous for its road trips. Road trips all over the prairies, long trips, copious amounts of booze. Do you have any good stories about your trips on the road with the Harts, Dynamite?
Yes. Some of them were booze and sex and drugs and rock and roll. It was KFC chicken and booze, you know, that was all. But, yeah, we had some good trips, you know, and gosh, way too many to mention. Of course, the Regina trips were epic, summer or winter. And depending who was in the bus, because at that time there was a babyface bus, there was a heel bus, and if you were caught crossing over, certainly around the arena, you got your butt kicked. But down the road, they used to stop and change over because there was buddies and there was people who got on with each other. So anyway, down the road a bit, they'd mix and stuff. But yeah, it was quite, what can I tell you without getting in trouble? I don't know. Well, poor John Foley's no longer here. Dynamite's no longer here. God bless the both of them. But, you know, John would be at the back of the bus and he was cheap and he'd never want to buy a beer, but he sure was good at drinking them. So and he get this Wigan accent, can you send me up a beer, Tommy? And Tommy would go, yeah, no problem, John. So Tommy would take the top off the bottle of beer and pass it back all these rows of seats. And every time it came to a row, somebody else would put something else in the beer. And by the time it got to John, it was like a Molotov cocktail, you know. And and he was in the back, and he was absolutely pie-eyed and wired after about 3 beers, you know. And he was a seasoned drinker, but it's just poor John. They said he was a drug addict for 20 years, and they didn't even know it, you know, just because all these guys were loading shit into him. He was a funny guy, you know, and he was a tough old bugger in his day, especially in Britain. He was very, very well respected amongst the people like Billy Robinson and Lou Thez and stuff. John was a bit of a shooter, you know, but he was past his best from his wrestling days by the time I got there, but he was certainly a big character, over big time as a heel, because he knew the psychology of the business.
He did. I saw some of his wrestling from the 70s. He was actually very scientific. He was quite good in the ring.
Oh, yeah. He was, yeah. But as far as shoot wrestling, or Wigan wrestling, they call it, he catch can. He was a tough, you know, the old miners style wrestling back in the Lancashire mines and stuff in the days, which is still going on, by the way. But he was very good. And a nice guy, too.
So Dynamite and John Foley were very close. Did you have a mentor when you were in Stampede Wrestling? Do you have somebody that you kind of had taken you under their wing, I should say?
No, not really. I didn't really, outside the ring, I didn't really mix socially with them or any of them, really. You know, I made friends in Canada, which was a good thing for me. One guy I did get on very well with, and we did spend time, was Cedric Hathaway, or Ivan Pensacoff, as we know him, or Ron Pennington, which is his real name. When he came there, I mean, we knew each other from the UK, so we became kind of buddies there too, and we'd share road trips, or we'd go out for a beer on days off and stuff. But from a wrestling point of view, no, he was never there to mentor me, or so yeah, I just used to take it as it come. If anybody wanted to give me advice, I was there with both ears open and my mouth shut and listening, you know.
That's good. Now, I know you were close with Dynamite at different times. Did you keep in touch with him when he moved back to England in '91, when he kind of shut down most of his wrestling career?
Yes, I did. In fact, I've wrestled a lot with him when he came back. In a way, I felt sorry for him when I saw him. He was a third of the size of the guy that he used to be. And even the audiences, mainly in the main, didn't really believe it was the real Dynamite Kid. So I know he had done good for me when I was there, so I made sure I put him over when he came back. And I figure I worked heel on him for quite a long time, Drew McDonald and I, and there was Dynamite and Johnny Smith working in the Britain as the UK Bulldogs, or the British Bulldogs, whatever they call them. And so yeah, I made sure I looked after him, and I put him over as best I could to make sure they knew that was the Dynamite Kid. Yeah, and we stayed friends obviously through that, you know.
Yeah, obviously he went through some rough years in the '90s. Did he really? We're taught that he was kind of a loner at that time, almost became hermit-like. Did he have connections in England during those later years?
Yes, that's very true. He did become reclusive. He remarried some woman who reportedly or allegedly didn't treat him very well, and took advantage of anything that he got coming his way and stuff. And poor Tommy used to just sit in front of a window in a wheelchair, all kind of buckled up, you know, and bottle of vodka and packet of smokes, and that was his life. It's sad, really.
So during Stampede in '84-'85, everything shut down. Stu took a break, of course, and then WWE took over a lot of the wrestlers. Did you ever get into negotiations? Were you ever considered for a WWE run at that time?
No, because I'd left just prior to that. I'd left. Bruce called me and said they were thinking of doing a tag thing with Piper. I said, well, you know where I am. If it happens, it materializes, give me a shout. I never heard anything more about it, and until I saw Bruce about 3-4 years later. He went, yeah, they wanted you to come back. I said, well, I told you, call me. So I don't know if that was legit or not, but I would have done it. And bearing in mind, in the early 90s, when the WWE used to come to the UK, at that time, they had to have UK wrestlers on the show for work permit purposes. I think there was a ratio. If they had like 6 Americans, they have to have 1 Brit and stuff. Anyway, they used 6 of us, and in that 6, there was myself, Dave Taylor, Fit Finlay, Regal, Johnny South, and Drew McDonald, or Bendon McDonald. And so they were the 6 of us. So initially we got over really good money to go and open the show. Well, we didn't know at that point it was to open the show. I think we did about 6 shows for them, including one of the pay-per-views and stuff. So we were pretty excited about it. But when we got there, we realized our egos were somewhat deflated. So they stuck us in this electrical closet. Pat Patterson thought it was great fun that he put us in the closet, you know. Of course. So we weren't allowed to change or communicate communicate with the WWE wrestlers. And of course, Brett was just on the corridor. So was Davey, Dynamite, Jim Neidhart, all guys I knew. but they wouldn't let us near them to talk to them. They kept us separately, and they put us in the ring as a 6-man tag match, 3 against 3. They say, guys, get in there and do 5-6 minutes and get the hell out of there. That was our exact. That was our mantra, you know. Get out of there, get paid, and go home.
Who do you
They
think?
didn't want us to.
Who segregated you? Was that the WWF brass at the time?
Yes, definitely. Pat Patterson.
Huh.
Yeah, they separated, and it was called UK Talent. They had big stars on their doors, you know, all printed up like British Bulldogs, blah, blah, blah. We had a little A4 with a pen or a pencil, British Talent, stuck on the door with chewing gum or something, I don't know.
Right.
Basically, they were trying to tell us, like, we don't want you here. Legally, you have to be here. So get in, get out, and see you. That was it. But we did about 6 of them in a row, 6, maybe 8 of them in a row, and it was good payday for us. And then gradually we were able to mingle with the others. They realised that we weren't there to create mayhem. But it's ironic that 3, maybe 4 of those guys went on to have a good career with WWE.
Sometimes it's interesting to play what if, and I always thought about what would your career have been like if you could have had some great matches with Dynamite in Madison Square Garden. You know, that could have been amazing at that time.
Yeah, but with Dynamite or Benoit, you know, because Benoit I had good matches with him as a heel, me being a heel, but also as like wrestling matches. Because I used to get in with Chris a lot. I used to help teach Chris a lot of the UK style wrestling. And Chris loved it. I mean, he wanted Dynamite to show him, but nobody would show him. Nobody wanted to help him at the time. But I said, I'll show you as much as I can. And I did, and we remained friends forever after that, you know. But yeah, I would love to have had matches with him and Dynamite in front of some of the big crowd, you know. Even Brett, I'd love to have worked with Brett, you know.
Yeah, would have been great. So my only time I saw you live was in one of your Regina trips that you were alluding to earlier. You took on Chris Benoit that night. How was your relationship with Benoit in those early years when he was just breaking into the sport? Benoit obviously idolized Dynamite, but as you said, you had kind of a mentor-mentee role with Benoit. How was it in those early years?
Yeah, very good. And, you know, although I was still pretty green myself at the time, after I'd only been in the business 5-6 years by that time, I always felt sorry for the underdog, you know, and I always wanted to help the guy. And I'm still like that to this day. I always help people. And I could see Chris getting left out in the corner. So I used to talk to him, and we became very good friends, yeah. And it showed in our wrestling. So he was able to give up and allow me to do things with him and vice versa. So it generated a good match. And then some people along the way get jealous. I think Bruce got jealous of that and split us up then. And he wanted to be in it. Oh, okay, whatever.
Interesting. Did you keep in touch with Benoit over his later years?
I did, yes. Yeah, I did, yeah. Yeah, and if he came to the UK, I'd go visit, I'd go see him, go backstage and say hello and stuff.
That's good. That's a sign of a good friend.
And to this day, I'm very close with his son.
Excellent. That's Daniel?
In fact, I'm taking David. Is his name Daniel David?
David.
David Benoit, yeah. Daniel is the younger one, right?
Absolutely.
The one that sadly is gone. David's coming to Dubai with us soon. He's going to put himself up there for quite a long time. We're going to give him a really intense coaching because he's desperate to be a wrestler, right? He's just had a tough few years after what happened, and he wants to wrestle, and he wants me. He said, "My dad would have wanted you to coach me," so I said, "Then I'm happy to do that." I'm like a dad to them all, you know, like Chris, David Benoit, and even like Smith Hart's son, Matthew. And I do, like, I kind of father them, I mentor them, and I love talking to them. I always try and help them. And so, I'm just delighted to be able to help him on his way.
So you're trainer for a lot of people. You were responsible for Sheamus. I think you played a role with Daniel Bryan as well.
Yeah, no, I didn't really coach Sheamus. I had a few sessions with him. And, you know, and a lot of these guys, they weren't trained by anybody in particular. They were trained by a lot of people along the way, right?
Sure.
So, yeah, I did coach him sometimes. And Daniel Bryan, I invited him into Britain. I was running All-Star for Brian Dixon behind the scenes. And I had finished as the World Heavy Middleweight Champion, which had previously been the champion of Rollerball Rock or Fuji Yamada, you know, Koichi Yamada. So I still had the belt, and I'd retired wrestling. So I said to Brian Dixon, let's do something for this belt, you know, who can we bring in? So I spoke to Doug Williams about guys in the States, and we decided to bring in the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. So we made him the champion. He was the Elvis, made him the champion, and we became friends after that, and we still say hello now and again. And so, yeah.
Tremendous wrestler. Did you see any of his recent work with AEW?
I haven't yet, but I just know exactly what he's capable of because I've seen him before, and he was wasted in WWE. He was wasted, but for him, it was a means to an end. It was a great contract, great payday for him every time he went in the ring and pay-per-views and stuff. He wouldn't have got that anywhere else at that time, but I'm glad now that he can take his foot off the pedal, if you like, and be himself again, which most of them can be. So it's good.
If you watch,
bear in mind that these guys got hired because of who they were in the beginning.
That's right.
Right. So then WWE takes them, then they kind of mold them into this different shape that doesn't work. And you think, why did they do that?
Well, Daniel Bryan was around on the Indies for 12, 15 years before he actually signed with WWE.
Oh, yeah.
If you get a chance, take a look at his match last week with Omega. It was a stellar match. It was fantastic. Yeah. He was back to his old self.
I've heard so much about it, but I will do.
I understand you also played a role in training Paige. Did you have a relationship with the Knight family?
I never trained her. No, I don't know where that came from. But yeah, I have a relationship with the Knight family. And when they do their TV tapings, I'm sort of backstage. I run it backstage. I produce the show and stuff. So yeah, I've wrestled with most of them, her brothers, their father, her cousins, her nephews. I've wrestled with all of them. Obviously, she was there a lot of the time, but she was a young lady at the time, and her mum and stuff. So yeah, I'm very close with that family. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when you look back on some of your UK wrestlings, the World in Sport days, you had fantastic matches with guys like Robbie Brookside, Johnny Saint, Fit Finlay, Rollerball Rocco. Rocco's matches in particular stuck out for me. I thought your matches with Rocco were stellar. How was it to work with him? It
was great. I loved every minute of it. I used the word chemistry. We had the chemistry. That's something that money can't buy. All the experience in the world could never always add up to chemistry. So we had that chemistry, and we made it. Nowadays, the guys go in the ring and they have to talk for 3 days before the match to work the match out, right? I know guys like Tonk, for example, used to phone the office in England in the morning, Brian Dixon, 10 o'clock in the morning. Brian Dixon just got in from a long road trip the night before. Hey, Brian, who am I on with tonight? Brian goes, oh, for God's sakes, Tatanka, it's only breakfast time. He wanted to know so that he could call that person and go through his match.
Right.
That's it. So with Rocco and Finlay and Johnny Saint and all these guys, and even Brookside and Darren Matthews and Steve Regal, William Regal, there was none of that. There was none of that because part of our training, and Dynamite was the exact same, there was no, we could ad-lib the whole show, the whole match. You could just sit and talk about a finish. Oh, I'll throw that spot and that spot in. Okay, you don't know when it's coming. You just know it's coming. But it still flowed seamlessly. And nowadays, the Americans, or the American-style wrestlers, they want to work everything out. And 9 times out of 10, they're the ones that forget most of it themselves anyways.
Right. That's the sense I get from watching WWE nowadays. It's kind of like paint by numbers. They've been planning this for hours. They practiced it several times. Versus the old style wrestling, the territorial wrestling, where, as you said, it was ad lib. It was making up Picasso in the ring.
Absolutely, absolutely. Nowadays, it's just like tick tock. It's like watching a tennis match. Tick tock, tick tock. Whereas with the ad libbers, you didn't know what was coming next, and people say, oh, but well, there was no story. Well, of course there was a story. You took the heat. You made your attempted comeback, and eventually you listen to the crowd, which is something they don't do nowadays. You listen to the crowd, they're calling the shots, really. And when the crowd's ready for the big pop, and you give it to them, right?
Mm-hmm. You were British or world mid-heavyweight champion several times in the UK. Do you have some good memories from that time? What was your favorite match to go through at that time?
Yeah, well, that was, I won it from Rocco on 2 occasions. I won it from Yamada on 1 occasion, and I won it from Brookside on 1 occasion. So, yeah, it was part of the journey, right? It wasn't like WWE where you get to ride on first class on the jet home, or you get a free ride to the show from the limo. It was just another job, and the promoter looked after you. If you liked you, he looked after you for doing these matches and stuff. But it was just good to be recognised, put it that way. It was good that the guys who were already the champions thought, well, this is a good enough guy to pass it on to and stuff, and keep it going and so on and so forth. So, yeah, to be recognised for that is not a bad thing. It knows you kind of did your job well, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, I consider you to be a great technical wrestler, but you face so many great technical mat wrestlers. My personal feeling that Johnny Saint is perhaps the greatest technical wrestler. What would you say? Who would you pick as the best of all time in that realm?
Yes, he definitely was at that time. Absolutely. John Cortez was another one in the UK. Keith Hayward, who was an ex-Olympian in the UK. Johnny Saint, who else? There were a lot of the lightweight guys, and they were really good at their craft, There's a kid coming through now. In fact, I laugh because I say to him, you're like the modern day Triple H because you married the promoter's daughter. So Dean Allmark in the UK, Dino, he married Brian Dixon's daughter, and the whole thing is still a very successful wrestling promotion after 50 years. But Dean is nowadays, I would say, the most technical wrestler I've ever seen overall, even over Johnny Saint. He wasn't around at the time of Johnny Saint, but the stuff, and this kid is so innovative. He invents stuff that even some of the guys you see on TV are taken from him. They're watching him. They send him videos, show me something new. He sends it to them. And he's just a young guy. He's like that. If he's 30, he'll be lucky if he's 30. Early 30s maybe, but he's a nice guy, and he is probably the most talented, gifted wrestler that I've ever met.
What do you think was so great about Johnny Saint? Was it his training? Was it his education on the fly? What made him so great?
His fitness. He was a machine, and he never gained an ounce of weight all through his career, But he could take that stuff. He took it from George Kidd. There used to be a Scottish wrestler called George Kidd, and he was the original that did that kind of stuff, just a bit before my time. But Saint was the natural. He was a natural guy to take over from George Kidd, and he did it very, very well, and made it look believable at the time. I'm not sure people would get it now, the up and down, hand behind the back stuff now, but he certainly pioneered that style of wrestling, and he was the first person I ever knew that gave a wrestling move a name. Now they've all got names for everything, and I'm lost completely. Right. But John had a move would be called the Lady in the Lake, the Russ Abbott, or the Rollover Beethoven. He just had to say that to me, and I knew what the next 2-3 minutes was. Right, so and it was great. I loved it, and but guys used to get and do wrestling matches with him and just try and make him look like better. My job is to make him look better. That was the kind of thing I like to do. I'd like to make John look more spectacular than he was already.
You faced off with a lot of great Japanese wrestlers as well. I think you were in Stampede around the same time as Kichi Yamada, or Justin Liger as we know him. Who would you rate up there as one of the best Japanese wrestlers you faced?
Yeah, he definitely was one of the best talents I've wrestled. Mr. Hito was there, obviously, and he was in the twilight of his career when I went there. I wrestled a guy in a mask over there called Kiwada. I'm trying to remember what his wrestling name was. It's on YouTube, the mask anyway, but he's a very good wrestler. I love the junior heavyweights. They were pretty class. Yeah. There's one who's with New Japan now, and he was in the UK for a while. His name will come to me. He's got blonde hair now with a big chain around his neck. But he came to Britain to learn. That's the days when New Japan used to send these guys out for 2 or 3 years. Don't come back until you've got a shitload of experience, So, there was a lot of Japanese guys came and went, and they were all made very welcome.
Was that Sonata, maybe?
No.
Naito?
It'll come to me. Who?
Naito?
No, it'll come to me.
Okay. I read a story about you that in 2016 you had a kind of final steel cage match against the Masked Destroyer in Stirling.
Yes, that's right. That's my hometown. Yeah. I did.
How was that? How was that wrestling in your hometown for that match?
Well, it was good, and I'll tell you why I did it, because 40 years prior to that, I had my first match in my hometown in the same hall, the Albert Hall, Stirling. And this promoter said to me, "Hey, you're in Stirling right now? You're home right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm home for a while." He said, "Why don't you do a match?" I went, "Oh, I don't know." But this time I'd had a hip replacement, some back surgery. And I said, "Okay, I'll do it." He said, "We'll celebrate your 40th year." So we did that. And it was to celebrate 40 years wrestling, 40 years since I had my first match in that hall, and 40 years later I had my last match in that hall. And that's what we did.
That's fantastic.
And to wrestle in front of a crowd is good.
How
and
was
here's
the
me
match?
diving up. It was good. It was short, but it was good. I got through everything. You know, I got my suplexes in, and I finished by diving off the top of the cage, doing a splash off the top of the cage.
Oh, that's great.
And as I got up to the top of the cage, I became almost eye level with the people sitting on the balcony of these old British town halls. I could see my friend and my brother almost eye to eye going, "You're effing crazy." And I just looked at him and I went, "Woo!" and I dived off the top.
Jumping off the top of the cage at age 56.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Insane.
Now, you've got a promotion at a training center in Dubai. Tell us about
Yes.
the UWN.
Okay, the UWN, we're still in the infancy. The training centre has already started. I was there March, April, May, getting things done. And we had a partner then who's, I would say it was his idea originally, but he screwed up and he's gone. And so he just had the idea, but we developed it. Me and the other two partners who are still in Dubai, we developed it. So it's going well, and we're just about to kick off big time. And it's going to be, I won't say what kind of investment has been put into it, Arabic and American money, but it's huge. More money than I could ever dream of, that's for sure. So we're targeting the MENA region, which is Middle East, North Africa, based in Dubai. We're going to be running our first show before the end of this year for television, and we're going to do 3 pilot shows for TV. And we're going to get anybody that money can buy, who we think is value for money and a good face and a good combination of putting bums on seats but can still contribute rather than just come for the payday. We're going to try and get as many of them together as we can and mix and match them with all our new young talent who we think is going to take over the world. I have a Pakistani guy, and he lives in Britain now, but he's Pakistani, and this guy has it all. He's the ultimate package, and I'm just hoping Regal doesn't spot him before I get him to Dubai. So his name is Heish Hedri, or Chic Sham, but he is a fantastic wrestler. He's an actor, he's a school teacher, he's a philanthropist. This guy's just got it all, you know. Geez, amazing. And I want to make sure that by 2-3 years' time, he walks down the streets, any street in the Middle East, and he'll be like the Pied Piper. The kids will all be following him. Yeah.
Is your promotion going to be mostly mat wrestling based, or is it going to be a hybrid?
A hybrid. Of course, we have to involve the entertainment, but it'll be a strong style of hybrid, believable stuff. Going back to when kayfabe was around, I wouldn't even have said that, what I just said. Believable stuff, right? It should all be believable. I'm not one of these guys that would put somebody in the ring who just go through the motions. It's got to look believable. They've got to want to do it. They've got to want to take it. And so a good solid, they call it strong style nowadays, but I call it solid wrestling with an entertaining flair.
Do you foresee this as going to be like a territory where you'd actually have touring at certain centers?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's our plan, is to tour the Middle East, like Pakistan, India, and United Arab Emirates, or the Middle East. They will be we'll be there. That's our place. That's going to be our home. Yeah. And we're hoping that somebody like Tony Khan, who's of Pakistan origin, he might, because he likes to work, he likes to collaborate, and he might want to come and look at what we've got and maybe do something together. I don't know.
Well, we've seen the forbidden door broken down many times in the last year, right? Lots of interactions.
You just never know what's next, eh?
I think it's been positive for wrestling to be able to see that. It's kind of like the old territory days where you'd have some champions moving through, people moving around different territories.
Yeah. Of course it is. And it's a great thing for wrestling. And if you respect our champions, like we got Nick Aldis coming on, well, he's lost the belt right now, but with Billy Corgan at NWA, yeah, take my guys, look after them and respect them. Respect, if they come with a title, make sure they come home with it. Absolutely we would. Why would you want to go against that, right?
Yeah. Somebody like Nick Aldis, he's tremendously technical. He's a great mat wrestler.
He is, yeah.
Put him with a manager, and I think he could be over the top.
Yeah, I think so too. And I don't know if PCO might be the guy for him, or somebody like that, Carl, or we've got people in this country that can do that kind of thing too. But yeah, Nick is a very talented wrestler, and he has great matches with another British guy who's out there called Tom Latimer, Bram.
That's right, I've seen him, yes.
They have great matches together. He's another one who's on our roster, yeah.
Will you have any links to the Japanese promotions?
Yes, we already have it in there, and excuse me, that's the idea, is to bring them all in and just amalgamate them in very multinational, very cosmopolitan type promotion, But everybody has to be able to work hard and look the part. Most importantly, I think we never mentioned women's wrestling. Women's wrestling nowadays is bigger than it's ever been, and that's thanks to Dave Finlay. He's the one that brought all these young girls up and made them work hard. So now the stuff they do now is more believable than ever. So we're going to take women to the Middle East, and yeah, it's going to be great.
Do you have any plans for how you're going to market women in the Middle East? That's got its challenges, of course, in certain countries.
Yes, absolutely, and we have to be very respectful of those. My partners, one is Christian, one is Muslim, and I'm a Christian, but we're all very respectful of each other, We won't let it stop us, that's for sure. We'll have to find what's acceptable when it comes to what they wear and how much they can be in your face, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. That goes for the men too. We have to be careful what they say. It can't be anything diplomatic, it can't be anything like rhetorical, or we have to we just have to respect everybody out there, because it is very, very, very multicultural.
One of the recent Saudi shows for WWE did have a women's match, but they were wearing full body outfits. What did you get a sense of? Did you get a sense that the audience was accepting of that?
Yes, I think they were. In this modern day and age. And I think those who maybe were screenshotted on TV didn't want to look like they were enjoying it because of fear of reprisals, I don't know. But I know the girls involved very much enjoyed it. And groundbreaking stuff. Why not?
Mm-hmm. Do you have any plugs or any things you'd like to put out about the UWN?
Not really, just except that we had to, because we split with one of the partners, we had to rebrand. So we're still the UWN, but the new website, everything's coming out soon. The old stuff is all still up there. That will all be pushed to the side very, very soon, and all the new stuff will be uploaded the same day. And this show here, I don't know if you can see this poster. I'm running a huge charity show for a local cancer hospice near my hometown.
Very nice. That's in Sterling. Excellent.
Yeah, Strathcarron Hospice. It's this organization here. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah. That's excellent.
And it's in Stirling, and that's the Albert Hall we were talking about. We had my first and last match in the background there. This is the Indian guy that I was telling you about.
Yep.
This is a big Scottish guy called Kuma. He's almost 7 foot tall, nearly 500 pounds.
Very nice.
And he can shift like a lightweight, like a junior heavyweight. Yeah. Grado, the big star.
I was going to say that's Grado in the center.
That's Grado in the middle, yeah. Right, and that's the man.
Great talent.
Yeah. So it's a Halloween spectacular show, mainly for the kids and so, but it's to raise funds for this fantastic facility at Strathcarron Hospice.
That's great.
That's Friday, October the 29th.
Sounds like a great event for a great cause.
Yes, it is, yeah. And we're all doing it for free and organising for free. The ring's coming in for free. Everybody's coming in for free, and they'll get all the money, as much as we can give them.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, Mr. Cullen. I wish you all the best with your new promotion, UWN. I'm going to be watching out for those videos coming out of the Middle East.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Right.
And it's been an absolute pleasure at any time.
Thank you so much for your time in Stampede Wrestling. We all appreciate your work.
Okay, big hello to Canadian wrestling fans and anybody else that listens to this podcast.
All right. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, man.